be mad to settle here.
Hi, Zizaran here with an update to the Spectral shield throw build that I am playing. So if you're following this build guide, I have been playing it as well, and like I imagined, it did run into damage issues. That's some of the things we're going to cover in this and how I solved it. Another thing that's important as well that I've sadly seen people being struggling with is that not everybody realized exactly how to scale it, and that is because a Spectral shield throw and shield crush build, they both scale from the shield, which not everybody realizes. So I did see some people are actually trying to get a better weapon, like a fist damage weapon. And honestly, that is something I should have made more clear in the guide. So just as a quick thing, I think what I'm going to try to do in every guide moving forward, even if it seems obvious, I'm going to have like a quick, this is how the build scales its damage. Because I think that's a lot more valuable than not having it. But yes, the armor and the shield, or both, scales your damage. And it will use armor and evasion, even though the skill gem says or. So you don't need a pure shield to max out your damage. So this is my Spectral shield throw. First, let's go over the shields. So Colossal Tower Shield with 2.5k armor versus a Cardinal with basically 2.3. You can see that it's generally the same damage. Obviously, you don't have the exact same number, or it would be the exact same number. But I just wanted to allay some fears there. People are also wondering, why aren't we using a pure armor shield, or why aren't we using a pure evasion shield? I think evasion does go higher, but the dex requirement is awful. And honestly, for me, that's been one of the worst issues to solve on this build, especially with the new base types being so insane. And I really want to find a good way to solve that, because I really want to use the new, it's like 170 strength and dex, new body armor, and you can get basically 4,000 or 5,000 armor if you have triple prefix on that, especially if I don't need to use the block on chest. So that is something I want to try to solve, but we'll see. I also don't want to spend too much money on this build, because my build is already doing what I wanted to do, which is make a shit ton of currency. I am spamming blight ravaged maps and stuff like that. So you can see I have 48 divines. I've been trying to invest all my chaos into divines early before they go up in value. And I've been selling a lot of base types. Like most base types are between 5 and 20 chaos per. And then oils are selling like popcorn. And I have found this, which, and a lot of softcore players are yelling at me. This is worth a lot more, but we don't spend as much as early on hardcore as we do on softcore. But yes, I realize this is incredibly rare. But I'll be happy to get 24 on hardcore. First, I want to cover how do I look up my damage on my build. So the first thing I do is I select Spectral Shield Throw. I was calculating my damage once and looking at my shield charge. Now, it will be a little bit different before clearing, which is the main thing you care about, and for bossing, which is the main weak point of the build. And yeah, it definitely is annoying. But first, let's look here. Is the enemy a boss? Yes. I always put pride effect to maximum, because most bosses I am trying to stay quite close to. But as you can see, the difference is, it is like 10-15% difference. So it is quite large. Also, remember to always check if your pride is on or not. On my stream, I'm regularly doing a pride check, because you don't have a buff in the top left, because it's an aura for your enemies, not for you. It is off quite a lot. Other than that, I click on endurance charges. I always keep those up. I then look through here. There's nothing else. Like, I do have Fortify, but it doesn't affect my damage, just my tank, and that is for my shield charge. Very nice, actually. Are you leeching? That is up a lot. I do have that for my glove. And then, is the enemy moving? Is the enemy bleeding? So you can see that right now I'm on 1.8 million damage, and with Frenzy Charge while clearing, a little bit over 2, which is honestly quite comfortable as well. A little help for the damage, and this is especially important early when you're lower. You can see that I have Blade Storm with Maim and Culling Strength. So I always cull the enemy, which is an extra 10% damage, but I also get another 100,000 damage from maiming the enemy. I never use that on like rares or anything in a map. I just want it on bosses for extra damage. Another thing people have been asking about is Embu found this. Chaotic Might, it's basically 30% fizz is extra chaos. So this is just to make my explosion juicier, and it is up all the time while clearing. The other one that could be experimental is like the wolf summon, because that should give flat fizz, which should give slightly more bleed. But I think this will be the more impactful one, and it's quite cheap. Now, what are some things that changed with the build? For the first time ever, I don't know why, I didn't go for essence farming. And essence farming is very strong this league, but I wanted to pursue gold, and then staying in low level maps. My workers are, I need to figure out union busting or something, pick up some tips from Amazon. They are charging me like at some point 17,000 gold an hour, and I can't maintain that in low maps. So I've actually gone for tier 16 map spamming, right? And I don't really want to deal with essences. As you all know who are playing this build, the build doesn't have a shit ton of single target. Even now that I have 2 million, I'm like, it's not fun, right? Farming 7 essences. I don't want to deal with that all the time. So what I've gone with to mitigate this is I've gone more into max resistances. So I have 83, 81, 82. And I've dropped suppression entirely because getting suppression gear without fractured honestly isn't that fun. That's why in the last raid guide we actually have a bunch of suppression nodes to do that instead, but that has a lot more damage, right? So we can afford to miss a bit there. This is a bit of a change. I did talk about in the initial video that I would have this for bossing. I've decided to just keep this all the time. The charge duration is really nice, especially for hardcore, where my charges aren't falling off all the time. This chance to block, this doesn't really work properly. It does not give as much as POB says it does, so I've dropped this entirely. I've taken this instead. Chance to block spell damage per 5% chance to block attack damage. So I do have 68, 65 right now. Another thing, I really did enjoy the Anoint of Sanctuary early on. It was really nice, especially until you can get block on chest. I do kind of want to drop block on chest. Don't really know where else to get block without giving up a lot of points. So that's a bit of a conundrum. My spell block is pretty okay though. Like it is effectively 90, 88, which I'm more than happy with right now at least. So I've anointed endurance. I have 7 endurance charges. I've not been able to get a corrupted comb sign, and I've not been able to get 2 because fitting chaos resist, as you can see, my gear isn't that crazy. A lot of it is like dead suffix, which is a bit of a pain. But it is what it is. Managed to pick up this really cheap, which honestly I like it for the explosion, and I haven't had a good time getting triple jewels, so it's virtually the same as a triple jewel. And I've kept Vanquisher, so my explosion's quite nice. I finally managed to drop these nodes. I do struggle with int. I also struggle with dex, but you know, could just get both of those. You do have those if you need it. Do remember, and this is in the final version of the original guide too, but do remember you don't need more than 100% chance to bleed. So when you have that, move away from the left or from the right to the left. Other than that, I think everything is identical to the initial build guide. A thing that people started doing was noticing how good shield charge is for clearing. And I've just flipped it, but you can see here that I have Fortify and Brutality on my shield charge. So that is actually giving me 20 Fortify while mapping. Actually, beefy boy. Beefy boy while mapping. I think the only thing that I've gone not to is degens, but even they are pretty okay, as I have 837 net life regen. And I do have Leech too. Pretty happy with the build so far. For crafting your shield, dense fossil spam is the best, and you do want to item level 86 cardinal round shield. I don't know how expensive they are in softcore and hardcore. The base is 50C. I've tried playing around with combinating, not had any luck. The weapon, pretty easy to craft. It's just alt spam, and then hope you regal into something like lightning res or +1 socketed gems. Then you can put your pride there. Helmet, shrieking greed are still okay, but also like the screaming fire cold and lightning res ones. This, I did reforged physical until I hit 8% PDR. And then it's okay. I really do want more armor though. I don't have that much. With everything up, and you can use a sulfur flask instead of granite on softcore. But yeah, I have 34,000 armor. It's fine for what I'm doing. Titan gloves, found these. Fractured tier 1 life, almost uprolled. I have pierce at the moment. I might be having too much pierce with 2, but it's probably, 2 is probably a good amount. The boots, probably the #1 thing I want to replace. Amulet, managed to get a dot multi one with regen. Honestly, very happy with this ring. This is just reforged chaos. I got a Rathpith Coil. I got that early before prices had settled. You do want to always try to look out for the most expensive things for your build anytime you find a divine or something early, because people take divines to fix their build. I managed to get it for 1. I think it's 7 or 6 divine now. So gone up in price a lot. And I've found one as well that I sold for 7 divine. It's very huge for the build. I do want to quickly explain how Rathpith work, because not everybody understands it. It's the same concept for volatility. So let's say that the base damage on our hit is between 5,000 and 15,000, right? The hit that causes the bleed. If I hit for 7,000 damage, right, it picks that number in our range, then my bleed is ticking with that as the base. If I then hit for 6,000, this is not renewing the bleed, but will take over if the first one expires, right? Because it lasts for roughly 4 seconds or whatever. If I now hit for 8,000, it is going to overwrite the bleed and start a new timer. etc. So you are chasing that high hit, right? Close to 15,000. Now, when we have volatility and stuff, it'll make our lower much, so our DPS would go down if we were hit based maybe. But we can now hit maybe up to like 25,000. So we're chasing that higher hit, right? So now we can hit 17,000, 3,000, and then 23,000, right? So we're chasing that high-end bleed, and that's why things like Rathpith and volatility is such a damage increase for our build. So Embu is playing Spectral Shield Throw as well, and is now using Shield Crush a bit, so I wanted to go over that and what he's doing as an alternative way. Does have slightly less damage, but it's fine for what he's doing because of the bleed explosion. So he has Shield Crush and he is using Life Tap. So the benefit here is that gearing can be really hard, and he has Purity of Elements as his aura. So he manages to fit Purity of Elements and Pride, and he doesn't really need to invest a lot into Reservation. I did look at this, but I felt like I needed to invest too much. I didn't really get to work with just life tapping like that. And you do have a lot of extra gems on this. I think you lose maybe Fortify in your shield charge here, because you do have to life tap everything. This is like an interesting thing. Oh my god, he has Awakened Deadly Elements, the bastard. The Purity of Elements makes you ailment immune and makes it a lot easier to fit. Other than that, I think it's pretty much the same. So definitely something you can look into. Another thing that's really good for this build, if you can fit it, is Death Rush. Just because it gives you Adrenaline all the time, and it'll basically boost your explosion and everything while mapping. It won't really help with your single target though. But it's really nice. That is the main stuff we've changed on the build so far. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. I hope the single target is worth suffering through for that incredible clear and fun blight maps. So thanks for watching. Sub if you liked the video, but more importantly, try to die less than I do.